Jacinda Ardern Exposed. New Zealand on alert documentary. How exciting is this for you? The failed ex-Prime Minister of New Zealand, Jacinda Ardern, is being metamorphosed into a Hollywood rock star. Since leaving New Zealand politics with an empty tank, Ardern has taken on several non-governmental organisation roles. She has worked at Harvard University, alongside Prince William with the Earthshot Prize, and recently finished as the Special Envoy on the Christchurch Call. The former failed ex-Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern recently announced that she will lead a new fellowship program for political leaders, about leading with kindness and empathy. The program named Field will create a network of like-minded political leaders who use pragmatic idealism to speak to people with hope and optimism rather than fear or blame, and want to unite rather than divide, as they look to solve the challenges ahead. And, to rub salt deep into many injuries, Madison Wells is producing a feature-length film on Ardern. The documentary will follow Ardern from the moment she receives the Labour Party nomination, through to her resignation in 2023. Apparently, a dream team of world-class renowned filmmakers have been assembled to tell Jacinda's trailblazing story, and they can't wait to share it with you, and the rest of the world. The film is hoped to be released in 2025. Bet you can't wait? I've no idea how much it will cost to make this film, or how much it will cost to watch this riveting trailblazing nightmare, or how much, if any, hard-working New Zealand taxpayers will have to contribute to this production. So, in the meantime, here's another Jacinda Ardern documentary for all you people who can't wait till 2025. The following documentary is free to watch, has been free to produce, and has not required any funds from hard-working New Zealand taxpayers. The documentary Jacinda Ardern Exposed has been produced free of all charges by New Zealand on Alert, just for you. Thank you for listening. Geraint, on behalf of WhangareiTim.
She's off to Harvard. She's been appointed to something by Prince William on climate change. But she's also just announced a big book deal. She's not going to write about her time as PM. Not a bad idea considering she's left the economy in such a bad shape. But she's going to talk about what it's like to be a leader.
She's not a leader. This is the problem. What she is a grandstander who has tapped into this, I don't know, this fangirl stuff where suddenly she's saying all these woke things that people are, grasping onto and thinking, wow, she's better than even Mother Teresa. And she's quite inept as a leader. She's left New Zealand in such a terrible state that people are moving out in droves. It's really, unless you're a Maori, you really should not be there. And I just feel it's very sad. She's a fake as far as I'm concerned. Sadly, she ain't no leader, and I will not be buying her book, that's for sure.
She's left New Zealand in a state of it's a basket case. So, and any book she's written, I think, it'll comprise around 2 chapters.
Saint Jacinda is definitely a good title for her. She's a darling, really, of the left, but she's very much disliked by the right. And New Zealand is in a very serious situation in terms of its economy. She was asked at the press conference today what she wanted to be remembered as. Let's have a look at that grab.
How would you like New Zealanders to remember you as Prime Minister?
As someone who always tried to be kind.
Finally, the New Zealand people woke up to her disastrous reign.
She was far from compassionate towards the people of the country she was ruling. She was far from compassionate when she put the people in New Zealand through lockdown after lockdown. On one occasion, because there was a single case of COVID identified in the country. So bang, New Zealand goes back into lockdown again. She wasn't compassionate about all of the troubles that the peoples of the country went through those benighted years. I think there's a fake form of compassion in the modern era where you do all the right shibboleths, you do all the right caring noises. And actually, as a result, you can get away with monstrous things, which is what she did. So I'm very glad to see her go. I've got no pity for her, as she now tells us she's got no fuel in the tank and she's kind of burnt out. She should think of the people she burnt through among the population of the country.
People around the world, I think, really, they see the media coverage. They don't see just how inept her government has been and how much they have failed, not not just in COVID policy, but everything from housing to race relations.
I think there's a phoniness about the woman. I think there's a fakeness. You can see it in her weird facial tics and gestures, her weird laughs, and her weird overdone pseudo-compassion. You can see it even in this resignation speech where she sort of, I thought it was sort of pretty pathetic, actually.
In hindsight, people look back and they certainly, I think that they regret the fact that the schools were locked down for a long time, that many businesses couldn't function. I'm not surprised that she has made the announcement. It was coming. The polls for the last year have been going backwards for the Labor government and forwards for the National Opposition. And her position as preferred Prime Minister has also slipped considerably. She's also got the poison chalice of housing, and housing is one of their issues where the government has not been performing well. Huge issues around social housing. They made promises they can't see through. Right. They're the issues.
She was facing a crushing loss at the end of the year, so perhaps that's why she threw in the towel on. Failures have been stacking up, claiming that she had nothing left in the tank. Her polling in New Zealand would suggest New Zealanders have seen right through Jacinda Ardern.
She'd had a very hard couple of years. She had lost 20% in the polls. Her approval rating had gone from just an absolutely astonishing plus 72 down to -1 in just 18 months. And basically everything that she had tried had been a failure. She had promised to build 100,000 houses. The government built 1,000 or 1% of that. She had promised to make climate change her generation's nuclear-free moment, and an allusion to New Zealand's nuclear politics of the 1980s. And yet emissions out of New Zealand have basically flatlined under her government, having fallen quite dramatically in the years prior. She promised to end child poverty. Under her government, we now have another 30,000 children living in a benefit-led household. I could go through this for a long time, but fundamentally, she was brilliant at marketing. She had very high ideals, and she was mugged by reality. If you look at the amount of lawlessness that's occurred, we have businesses that operate in New Zealand and Australia. I've spoken to some of those business owners, and they're saying we're just not having the problems with robberies and what we call ram raids, where someone drives a car into a business and steals stuff from inside, having broken the door. We're not having those problems in our Australian stores. We are having them in our New Zealand stores. So it's not a crime problem, it's a lawlessness problem that has made people very uneasy. And we've also had a kind of a stealthy constitutional transformation where we've gone from being one of the longest running and proudest liberal democracies in the world, the first country in the world where all adult citizens were allowed to vote, something that all New Zealanders are very proud of, to introducing a new concept of New Zealand, where there were going to be what are called tangata whenua, land people, and tangata tiriti, treaty people. And when a healthcare system or even the management of something as mundane as municipal infrastructure is set up, there have to be some seats reserved for people of Indigenous background and some seats for people who are not. Now, I myself happen to be both, and I find it highly offensive, as do many, if not most, New Zealanders, including many New Zealanders who are Māori, who actually want to be citizens of the world, not given some sort of strange status based on events that happened 180 years ago.
How would you like New Zealanders to review this practice?
As someone who always tried to be kind.